Many of the world's poorest nations are in Africa. That is because most of its economies are unstable and poverty is widespread. There are, however, some African countries that have the fastest growing economies in the world. The largest components of the African economy are agriculture, trade, and natural resources, and the African economy is expected to reach a GDP of about $29 trillion by 2050. When looking at GDP, it is important to note that income inequality is not taken into consideration when the per capita GDP is reported, meaning a country's GDP can be high but its citizens still continue to live in abject poverty. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our videos. So without any further delay, these are the top 10 richest countries in Africa 2021 by nominal GDP per capita. Number 10, Algeria. GDP per capita, $3,364. Despite a 5-year slowdown in GDP growth from 2015 to 2019, Algeria's GDP surged up in 2020 and 2021 with a staggering amount of around $152 billion and a GDP per capita of about $3,364. With a high GDP, the country is rapidly recovering from a shrinking hydrocarbon sector, a labyrinth and public-led model of growth, and the private sector struggling to become the new engine of economic growth. The hydrocarbon industry, which accounted for 20% of GDP, 41% of fiscal revenues, and 94% of export earnings in 2019, is experiencing a structural decline. Even at that, Algeria still makes its way among the richest countries in Africa 2021. Number 9, Morocco. GDP per capita, $3,409. Morocco's economy was experiencing its first downturn since 1995. The lockdown and significant decline in exports caused by the pandemic's disruption to global value chains, as well as the collapse of tourism receipts, resulted in a 15.1% drop in economic output in the second quarter of 2020. The pandemic shock to supply and demand has been exacerbated by a drop in agricultural productivity due to a severe drought. Although activity picked up in the third and fourth quarters of 2020, the government's preliminary estimates indicate that Morocco's real GDP contracted by 7% in 2020, leading to an increase in unemployment from 9.2% to 11.9%. But by the first quarter of 2021, Morocco's GDP spontaneously increased to about $122 billion, and a rise in GDP per capita of about $3,409, popping up in the top list of the richest countries in Africa. Number 8, Namibia. GDP per capita, $4,412. Namibia is a small country of about 2.5 million people with a long coastline on the South Atlantic, bordering South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and Angola. It is the driest country in sub-Saharan Africa and is rich in mineral resources, including diamonds and uranium. Namibia has a GDP of about $11.38 billion and a GDP per capita of about $4,412 in 2021. Namibia is largely dependent on investments in mineral extraction and government spending, which has suffered from falling commodity prices, weak growth in key trade partners Angola, South Africa, and tight fiscal policy on the back of the government's efforts to rebalance public finances. Number 7, Libya. GDP per capita $4,733. Libya entered 2021 as a divided nation, aspiring for recovery and healing. With identifying conflict and a blockade of oil terminals and fields, the economy registered one of the worst performances in recent records for the most part of 2020. However, if the present rapprochement continues, Libya's economy will be able to recover significantly from its 2020 slump in the coming years. Oil production is expected to reach 1.1 million barrels per day in 2021, despite substantial maintenance issues. This would result in return to 6-7% real GDP growth in 2021. In terms of GDP, the economy would still be 23% smaller than it was in 2010, the year before the conflict began. Libya's GDP is estimated to be at $24 billion, with a GDP per capita of $4,733, putting the country back on top. Number 6, South Africa. GDP per capita, $5,236. South Africa has made considerable strides to improving the well-being of its citizens since its transition to democracy in the mid-1990s. but progress has slowed in the last decade. Between 2005 and 2010, the percentage of the population living in poverty in South Africa declined from 68% to 56%, but has since trended slightly upwards to 57% in 2015 and is expected to reach 60% by the end of 2021. However, structural challenges and weak growth have undermined progress in reducing poverty, which have been heightened by the COVID-19 pandemic. As of the year 2021, an individual living in South Africa with less than $62.8 per month is considered poor, whereas individuals having about $44 per month available for food and living below the poverty line according to South African national standards. The achievement of progress in household welfare is severely constrained by rising unemployment, which reached an unprecedented 32.5% in the fourth quarter of 2020. All drastically changed in 2021 as the country experienced a rise in the GDP of about $320 billion and a whopping GDP per capita of about $5,236. Thanks its mixed economy system in which there is a variety of private freedom combined with centralized economic planning and government regulations. Number 5. Botswana. GDP per capita $7,817. Botswana is located at the center of Southern Africa, positioned between South Africa, Namibia, Zambia and Zimbabwe. One of the world's poorest countries at independence in 1966, it rapidly became one of the world's development successes. Significant mineral wealth, good governance, prudent economic management and a relatively small population of slightly more than 2 million have made it an upper-middle income country with a transformation agenda of becoming a high-income country by the year 2036. The economy of Botswana grew very quickly and it's home to a highly sophisticated banking system. The GDP of Botswana is about $17 billion and the capita per head is about $7,817, with a low level of foreign debt. Metals and gemstones are important to the economy of Botswana and include resources like uranium, gold, diamonds and copper, making the country one of the richest in Africa. Number 4. Gabon. GDP per capita $8,388. Gabon is a country located in Central Africa. It has an area of 267,670 square kilometers, with a population of about 2.13 million people. It is one of the least populous countries in the world, and it has a low population density of about 8 people per square kilometer. Its capital is Libreville and its currency is Central African CFA francs. Gabon is holding the 122 positions in terms of the Human Development Index, which is the index used by the United Nations to measure the progress of a country. Gabon's economic freedom score is 58.1, making its economy the 110th freest in the 2021 index. Its overall score has increased by 1.4 points, primarily because of an improvement in monetary freedom. Gabon is ranked 15th among the 47 countries in the Sub-Saharan Africa region, with a GDP of about $17 billion and a GDP per capita which is approximately $8,384 in 2021, according to Trading Economics Global Macro Models and analysts' expectations. The economy of Gabon revolves around oil. Number 3. Equatorial Guinea. GDP per capita $9,141. Equatorial Guinea is a country in Central Africa which is relatively small, covering only around 10,830 square miles. The population of the country is approximately 1,459,029. Thus, the low population helps keep the GDP per capita relatively high at the range of $9,141 in 2021 and a GDP of approximately $12.50 billion. In the last decade, Equatorial Guinea has had one of Africa's fastest growing economies. After the discovery of large oil reserves in the 1990s, the country became the third largest producer of oil in sub-Saharan Africa, after Nigeria and Angola. More recently, substantial gas reserves have also been discovered. However, as a result of the reduction in oil prices, the country's macroeconomic and budgetary situation has deteriorated. Number 2. Mauritius. GDP per capita $11,693. Mauritius is an island country located in the Indian Ocean, off the southeast coast of the African continent. Throughout its history, the country has been colonized by the Dutch, French and British. It has been independent since 1968 and has a population of around 1.3 million. Mauritius has undergone a remarkable economic transformation from a low-income agriculturally based economy to a diversified upper-middle income country that has attracted considerable foreign investment and has one of Africa's region's highest per capita GDPs. The government is trying to modernize the sugar and textile industries while promoting diversification into such other areas as information technology and financial and business services. Services and tourism remain important economic drivers, and maritime security is a priority. According to Trading Economics Global, macro models and analysts, Mauritius's GDP per capita is anticipated to reach $12,000 by the end of 2021. And according to the econometric models, the Mauritius GDP per capita is expected to trend at $13,400 in 2022. Number 1, Seychelles, GDP per capita $16,348. Seychelles is the richest country in Africa when using the GDP per capita metric. The Seychelles economy is primarily driven by fishing, tourism and boat building, processing coconuts and vanilla. Its public sector contributes the most employment and gross revenue, employing 2/3 of the total labor force. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant economic and social impact on the Seychelles economy. Due to major interruptions in economic operations in Seychelles, economic growth in 2020 fell to 13.5% from 3.9% in 2019, owing to fewer tourism activities which declined by more than 60%. Furthermore, due to fewer incomes and greater COVID-19 related spending, the budget deficit widened to 22.6% of GDP in 2020 and is expected to narrow to 15.3% in 2021. Meanwhile, recovery is evident in 2021, driven by a resumption of tourism and related capital flows. If unmitigated, the poor are expected to bear a disproportionate impact of the economic shock. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.